hear the airplanes, by the way.
Oh, shoot, really? I've got my window closed.
It's okay. There's an echo in here too. It's fine. Hello, 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 people. This is Her Talk Show. My name is Sabrina Victoria, and I am here with Debbie Lynn Grace. What a freaking cool name. I'm so excited for this conversation. We're going to be talking all about power, purpose, and prosperity. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide, offering insights and inspiration to fuel your personal and your professional growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, if you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Debbie Lynn Grace. She is a transformational leader, marketing and business growth expert, and international speaker, energy worker, and intuitive. She is also author of the book Outrageous Business Growth and a contributing author to 5 other books, and publisher of Sensitive Living magazine. We love magazines here. For the last 30 years, she has spoken at business, leadership, and personal development conferences around the world and is frequently interviewed in the media. Her online programs, live retreats, and private mentoring programs have transformed hundreds of thousands of lives. Debbie is dedicated to her calling of showing spiritually awakened individuals worldwide how to activate permanent flow in their prosperity, love, manifestation, and authentic power. Welcome, Debbie.
Hi, thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Before we jumped on, we were talking about your newest accomplishment to your community, which is your magazine.
Yeah, very excited.
I love this. So this is specifically geared towards individuals who identify as being highly sensitive.
Yeah, highly sensitive, empathic. Yes. Yeah.
How do we know? Because there was a point in my life where I didn't know I was highly sensitive or empathetic. Everyone just told me I was a weak crybaby.
Well, that doesn't, ironically, there's it's a semantics issue. Highly sensitive person it's not talking about your emotions. So people misinterpret that. Really, what it is it has to do with the part of your brain that detects and has you, when you take in input and stimuli, it's how you react to that external stimuli through your senses. So that's why it's called highly sensitive person. So I think in layman's terms, the way I put it, because I'm not a science person, so I think always in practicalities. In practicality, what it means is people that are born highly sensitive are born without a shock absorber system. So, and if you don't have a shock absorber system, that means that something can affect you, whether it's a sound or it's something you touch or it's something you hear. You're more in tune to it because you have no filter. So that's literally what a highly sensitive person is. It means it's why highly sensitive people tend to shut down much faster, because they get overwhelmed and overstimulated. Their nervous system starts to shut down. So that's literally what highly sensitive means. Now, if you're born highly sensitive and it makes you far more aware of your external, because nothing seems to feel very safe. And so things don't feel safe because you have no filter, So somebody that's not highly sensitive, I always say, like, I'm more noise sensitive than anything. So if a motorcycle's coming by, the average person might register it that's not highly sensitive as, oh, it's a motorcycle, it's kind of loud, and they just go on with their life. They might not even notice.
Totally.
For me, if it's one of those loud ones with the muffler, on a scale of 1 to 10, it feels like you took a bat to my body. Wow. Right. So that's what, so I've been working with highly sensitive people for 30 years. I've been doing programs and giving them tools so that it doesn't take away their sensitivity. It gives them added protection. And when you have that added protection, you feel more safe, then you still to feel emotionally more safe. So that whole thing, like I was told I was too sensitive growing up, most of my life, because as you just said, you're a crybaby. I would cry, but the reason I think that a lot of highly sensitive people they cry is because you've taken in this energy. Like you can cry for a couple of reasons that maybe the average person might not. One is if you're empathic, you're feeling their emotions. So if they have a surge of emotion, you'll take in that surge of emotion, and it's got to move. Once you take in too much emotion or energy, it has to move somewhere. So you're either going to cry, laugh, or scream. One of the three. You just have to move it somehow.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, because I talk about this. Like you'll get 3 emotions from me when I'm feeling emotional: laugh, cry, or yell.
Yeah. It's because you've taken, so if you learn the right tools, I teach how to manage the energy flow in your body. It makes it so much easier on your body, on your nervous system, on your emotions. So being highly sensitive doesn't mean you have to be highly emotional. Doesn't mean you're not going to be emotional. I mean, every human is wired for emotions for a reason, but you don't have to have those spikes and surges that a lot of the average person doesn't necessarily experience. But honestly, there's a reason why those of us that are born highly sensitive in the world were chosen to be born that way. And that's a good thing. It's why you do what you do, Sabrina, because you care so deeply about people. And because you feel you're empathic and you're empathetic. We need more people in the world that are more compassionate, that are more empathetic, that are more generous, that are more caring. And hey, raise both hands if you're highly sensitive, because that's us. That's literally how we're made up. That's our makeup. And we're much more intuitive because you've trained sort of, when you've got things coming at your senses, you really need access to that fifth, that sixth sense to help you discern, is this okay or is this not okay, right? And when you start to override that, that's when you really get into trouble. So people that are highly sensitive, it's based on research. It's not a diagnosable thing. It's not something that's medically wrong with you. It's literally the difference between saying, hey, you were born left-handed or right-handed. All right. So you're just born that way. Well, you were born with the way your brain was wired. It's either has that, filter, or it doesn't. And but when you don't know how to nourish it, embrace it, and protect it so that you can stay powerful in every situation, it can absolutely affect you emotionally.
I love how you're saying that we could use more, because I remember growing up in this mindset of like being weak and being a crybaby, and thinking, I wish I was more like everyone else. I wish I was harder. I wish that I was more strong. I wish that I didn't care. And so now hearing you say the opposite of, listen, this is actually a powerful tool. We actually need more of this. I think that's so important for so many of us to hear.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because there's actually an article in my magazine, in the first issue of the magazine, that says, should you toughen up or soften up, and why people telling you to toughen up is actually the wrong thing to do. And so it's literally one of the articles, because I grew up also, I always felt like I didn't belong. I didn't know how do you stop this? When you're sensing things around you and when you're young, you don't have the dialogue to talk about it.
Totally.
And right. And so it just makes you emotional. And then somebody tells you you're too sensitive. You're like, I don't know how to, without giving me a tool and without showing me that, I just interpret that as there's something wrong with me. And I have to fix it, but you're not showing me how to fix it. And so there's so many highly sensitive people that come to me when we work together that literally feel unlovable, unworthy, undeserving, because they were born with something that's wrong with them. And they didn't know how to fix it, or they would just ignore it. They would defend it. They would try and toughen up. But the bottom line is, the only way in is to embrace it, and then learn how to feed your power in a way that honors your sensitive nature, and you can still show up powerfully. And quite honestly, I still cry at commercials, but I also know how to stop crying like this because I have the tools to do that. So, but when, every once in a while, when a big surge of energy comes through me, I'm like, oh, there's the tears. But I also know how to stop that immediately because I do have the tools.
That is great. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I think that's important. I think for all to realize that something like that can be done
Yeah.
once we really start to work on ourselves. So when you're talking about embracing this part of ourselves, I know you can talk a lot about high vibration and leading a powerful life.
Mhm.
This whole embracing this side of us, is that part of leading a highly vibrational life?
Leading a high vibrational life is you were born. People were born, they have a spiritual life, right? When they're born human beings in a spiritual life. And so leading a high vibration life is no matter whether you're highly sensitive or not highly sensitive, but it will help you tremendously if you're particularly if you're highly sensitive, to live a high vibration life, because all the tools that help you lead that life, you were already born sort of actually, believe it or not, you were born sort of with a leg up, like a gift, because people that are highly sensitive tend to be, like I said, more intuitive. They're more in touch with their intuition, and they're more in touch with that sense. And that is a sense that when you're living in a high vibration is literally what guides you in your life. And it's the absolute truth. So it's to some extent, highly sensitive people, if they knew it, if they realized it, are actually, it's easier, it's more nourishing, it's more rewarding, but mostly it's just easier on your body, it's easier on your mind, and it allows you to be powerfully, very authentically. So living a high vibration life is for all humankind. It can be actually easier for a highly sensitive person if they knew how to do it, but it's the way you were wired. You were born. We were all born to live a high vibration life. But the world is absolutely not set up. The world is set up to have a different version of power. It's set up for ego-based power. So ego-based power is always to keep somebody less than and somebody greater than. That's the way our world is set up, especially for women and for any type of minorities. This is why we have discrimination. This is why we have misogyny. This is why we have racism. This is why we have anti-Semitism. This is why we have all of that, because the world, our external world, which is very difficult. So you have people like you, Sabrina, who are out there fighting the good fight, saying, "Oh heck no, we're not taking that. I'm not going to live. This is not a world that I'm okay with. So let's let women have a greater voice in all of this." So, but you're not actually wired to live that way. That's actually not your authentic being. External power is not your authentic being. You have an internal authentic power, which you're exercising, just in this program, right? Is to use your voice. That's your absolute truth, power. But to do that, you can do that from different places. You can do it from a high vibration or low vibration. From a low vibration, you're still living in that external world. A low vibration is, you did this to me, so I'm taking back my power and I'm going to do this. That's a low vibration. High vibration is you rise above all that and you come from a place of compassion, because only from a place of compassion do you see there's literally no separation. We're all human. We're all humankind.
Yeah.
And you have a greater understanding. You see other people's pain, you see their hurt, and realize that's what's motivating them. But that doesn't mean that's your stuff. You can do it from a different, a different place. But this is where freedom's at. Higher vibrations is where freedom's at. True freedom.
Yeah. How does somebody know when they are in alignment? Like, we have a ton of people watching live, by the way. So thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. For those of you watching on the replay, thank you for being here and hanging out with us. For those because I feel like in my past, if somebody would have been like, be yourself, I would have been like, I am being myself.
Yeah.
Like I am.
Yeah.
But I so was not like at all like the person that I was 15 years ago and the person that I am today, knowing now all of this or knowing some of it, right? We don't know all of it. Has been such a transition for me. So for those listening to us right now who are kind of like, I feel like I am.
Yeah.
How do we know
Yeah.
when we're in alignment
Yeah.
with our soul path?
It's actually it's much easier than you think. First of all, your body will tell you immediately if you're in alignment or not. That's just the smallest first step. Okay. Because you can feel relaxed. You can feel relaxed and not actually be in a really higher vibration. So let me just take a step back here. Okay. Everybody sort of lives their life in in a range, okay? A range of a vibration. So some days you have a really good day, so you're a little higher in the range. Some days you have really crappy days, right? Something happens, you're in a bad range. When you get below your normal range and you kind of live your day-to-day life, now you're moving into dangerous territory, which is when you start to hear that massive amount of self-inner critic, and it starts to go really deep. You could even hit into depression. You start doing maybe addictive type of behaviors, all right? Then there's that middle range where people are, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Things are okay. That's the middle range for 99% of the population, where you have a really good day. So when you start to hit towards your upper range, which is you have all these belief systems in your mind, will allow you go to the upper range for what you believe that you can have in your life. Okay. And so if you go to that upper range, all of a sudden it's like all these good stuff starts to happen and you have more flow. So you're thinking, oh, now I'm in alignment. Now things are good, right? And some good opportunities come in. You just seem happier. That's a great place to be. I mean, hanging out in this upper range, but it requires you to do some things to hang out in the upper range. High vibration life is above the upper floor. It's the floor of your upper range. Do you get that? So if this is your normal range, this is now the floor, not the ceiling. Okay. If you want to know what alignment feels like, this is the floor, not the ceiling of your life. And that's what I teach. Oh. Now, how do I know this area up here exists? Okay, I would even know that. Well, I didn't 30 years ago until it downloaded, through me. But up here, some things start to happen that are different than your normal way of living. Okay, so one is that when you start to move into these higher ranges, that like in your spiritual range, which is up here, it's not your normal range unless you've learned to live this way, right? Up here is where you literally feel powerful, but that power is coming from such a place of self-love, such a place of self-love. And you're up here and you realize you become a powerful, powerful manifester. There's no thing that's too big that you don't know, this is mine. This is mine. And the universe, I can conspire with the universe to have that. Up here is when you are so aligned with your purpose driven and you're guided to do that. Up here is when you rely on your inner knowingness for the truth. You don't rely on what's going on in here in your brain. Inner knowingness does not come from your brain. You can feel it in your body. You might even hear it in your brain, but it is a different vibration than you doing. If you have any level of yes or no, should I or shouldn't I, you're back down here in that range.
Wow.
So this is there. And to stay up here requires tools. It requires some like taking care of yourself in a certain way. No different than you take showers, you take baths, you brush your teeth, you eat right? When you stop doing that stuff, you suffer, right? When you stop doing the things that take care of you and honor your body, you suffer. So when you don't do the things to keep you up here, you start to dip down. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Very interesting. I love the visual that you're giving us as far as the ceiling is the floor.
Yeah. It's a life that I've had students come into my programs that go, everything happened. Is it too late? Because I work with a lot of people that are 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s. They're already retired. And they're like, first of all, they're just finding out now that they're highly sensitive, and there's something, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be highly sensitive. And, or they're stuck and they just can't. And these are people that can be really successful too, but they're kind of stuck. And we're trained from the get-go when you enter into school, into education, to be focused on doing, and get a result and achieve goals, right? Yeah. So you're taught this success formula, but nobody teaches you in school, A, if getting that goal is going to make you happier, B, if it could be effortless instead of a lot of effort. Nobody's going to tell you that in school. It's like you have to work hard to get that grade. You have to work hard to get that goal. You have to work hard. So we're rewarded in society to work hard. So by the time a woman enters into the workforce, right, she's like, I only know this masculine way of operating. So she ends up being super masculine in the way she enters into the business world, which is very against her actual authentic nature. And works really, really hard. And so by the time you're in your 40s, you're going to have this massive roller coaster of working hard with grit, determination, especially if you're a high achiever, even being proud of yourself for achieving something, and then start to have so many illnesses and get shut down and get burned out and then see your relationship suffer or see some other area of your life suffer, or all of a sudden lose passion for what you're doing. And you can't figure out why, even if it's important work. So those are all signs that you've been doing it from a place of persistence in this lower vibration, not from up here. Because you're not taught to live up here. You're taught to live in here. Because here, there's separation. Here, somebody can still have power over you. Yeah. Here, the external world operates on 5 types of power. Okay, the ego-based power, it's either looks, physical strength, intelligence, authority, or money. Wow. So you see everybody competing on one or more of those 5 things. Wow. You're living in a high vibration life, there's zero competition. Zero competition. There's it doesn't even exist in that realm. There's nothing called, and there's also nothing called worthiness or deserving up in a higher vibration. Wow. You're born, worthiness is a judgment. And so is deserving. It's a judgment. So that doesn't exist in your actual authentic being. That's just something that you learned. Oh, it's a self-judgment. Now I did this, so now I'm worthy of this. I did this, so now I'm, did this, so now I can prove I'm actually lovable. That's just showing you what your, constricted beliefs are and your constricted identities are.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard that before. So I thank you for sharing that. The worthiness and deservingness is a judgment. I appreciate this because, we have accomplishments or non-accomplishments in our life, and we're judging it by our surroundings or the society we're in. It actually doesn't mean anything to somebody in a different country, to somebody who's higher up, lower. It's kind of would that be objective? It's like objective almost.
Well, I mean, social media is a breeding ground for perpetuating. I mean, look at all the women that are influencers because what they look like and the outfit they're wearing and what, and how pretty they are, or the men and showing how many muscles they have, right? Or how many YouTube videos you see about how much money I made, right? So it's all marketing, but it also feeds into, what it does is that does to your, I'm not saying, first of all, that there's something wrong with being pretty, and that's completely subjective. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being strong. I go to the gym and I try and get stronger and physically stronger and stronger. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having tons of money or authority. None of that. There's nothing wrong with those 5 things. What's wrong is to compete and judge your self-worth based on any of those 5, or to think that those 5 give you permission to be better than somebody else. That's what's wrong. Okay. So none of those things. I mean, be as pretty as you want to be and dress the way you want and have as much money. I want you to have a ton of money. right? I want you to be as prosperous as you possibly can. I want you to be, but do it because it makes you happy, but because it brings you fulfillment. If you're taking away that level of fulfillment along with that, and that level of complete abundance, you have so much love pouring through you. You're doing things out of a generosity, right? You have so much love pouring through you. You're doing it out of generosity, or you're doing it because your soul said, this is why you came in. This is for you to do this work, right? So when you're looking at your own accomplishment and you want to feel good, never look to the future. Always look to the past. So the greatest thing you just said earlier in this conversation was, I'm not the same me at all than I was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That's something to celebrate.
Yeah.
That's a massive win for you to say, this is how I've evolved. I've now discovered this about myself. I've now discovered this power that I have. I now discovered that I can reach all these people with my voice. I've now discovered that, I can say things and articulate things in a way that shifts somebody, that transforms somebody. That is what now starting to live in a high vibration life starts to look like.
Such good stuff. I appreciate all of that. And I love when I learn something on these podcasts. It's phenomenal. We're like inkling towards the end here, but I want to ask, and feel free to go over. I want to ask, what caused you to seek out your authenticity? What led you on this personal journey? Did something happen?
Yeah, something big did happen. I started my career in marketing. So I started out in a direct marketing agency decades ago. I'm going to stop using numbers because I just sound so like I'm 1 foot in the grave kind of thing. But let's just say decades, multiple decades, in the direct marketing industry, before we were on the internet. And so direct response marketing is literally what drives sales on the internet. It's a type of marketing that generates a response. And so I used to do the mail. Remember when you get mail? Remember the mailbox? You get mail and you open it up and say, I'm selling you this magazine in the mail, or I'm selling you a credit card in the mail, or I'm selling you something in the mail. That's what I learned to do decades ago. So I'm actually an expert in direct response marketing. And I worked for an agency, had clients like Citibank and Hewlett Packard, mailed millions of pieces of mail for my clients. And then I went on to become vice president of marketing for a bank in Chicago for a few years. And I found out that I hate banking. So I convinced my husband at the time to, I'm like, look, I'm going to leave my job, even though on paper, this is a super cushy job, with a title and a secretary and blah, blah, blah. I've never been more miserable in my life. Wow. But my father was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. I think I was born an entrepreneur. I said, I want to start my own marketing consulting business. So he agreed. And this is 1994, before we were really online. And so I was just a few months into starting my business, and my husband asked me for a divorce, and I didn't see it coming. And I know you've had things in your life, and I'm sure you've had many, people on this podcast who have had something in their life that just chops you down at your knees, right? Mm-hmm. That you are like, it just unravels you. And I didn't see it coming. And I turned to my family and my friends for support, and I woke up crying, and I cried all day, and I went to sleep crying. And one day I'm crying to my older sister, Lisa, and I said, will I ever be happy again? Because I felt like he just pulled the plug on my happiness forever. Wow. And she said yes, which, you need to hear that from somebody you love, right? That just promises you that happiness will be restored at some point. And then she said something that changed the course of my life, literally. And she said, it's time for you to learn what I do. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm a marketing consultant. I've now got new clients. We're helping them with their marketing. And Lisa, at that time, was an energy worker. She was an intuitive, very gifted healer. But you have to understand, 30 years ago, nobody talked about that. This was not common knowledge. It was woo-woo. It was weird. It was what I thought she was woo-woo. I thought she was wacko. I thought she was strange. I had no idea what she did. I'm a left brain, analytical, high achieving mindset. And I'm like, why would I do that? And she said the magic words. And she said, because it will help you heal. And for whatever reason, I just was so desperate, grasping at straws. I'm like, okay, if this is going to help me heal, fine, I'll learn this. So I found myself building my business by day and by night. I learned this type of energy work called flow, alignment, and connection. And basically that's the ability to track energy flow in any person or situation around the world and identify where there's an energy block and facilitate the energy so the block is released and the flow is restored.
Wow.
So I learned it as a healing art originally, just for myself.
Yeah.
My sisters knew about it. My best friend knew about it. I had a couple of friends I let in it, but there was no way I was going to tell anybody out loud. You didn't talk about spirituality out loud or soul or energy work. No, not telling anybody about this. So something interesting happened. That as I started to learn this energy work, my business started to grow. My marketing consulting business started to grow.
Okay.
And one day, not about a year after learning this energy work, again, just for my own healing, I started to see things differently. I'd say, what's your marketing challenge, everything. And all of a sudden I could find myself, I can't even describe it. I can't really describe it energetically, but how I could track the energy flow of what they were saying in their business and literally know where the blocks were and tell them to do stuff. But one day something new happened that had never happened before.
Okay.
I'm listening to this new client and this voice comes in my head, very loud. Never heard this voice before. It says, ask that person what happened to them when they were 5. Because this created this fear inside of this and this belief. And now they struggle with this and they have a fear of this and this is how it's affecting their business. And it was very specific in my head. And I'm arguing now. I don't know if you've ever had an argument with yourself in your head, but I started to argue with this voice going, I'm not going to say that. This person's going to think I'm crazy. Meanwhile, this person's going, blah, blah, blah. They're talking to me, not knowing that all this stuff is happening in my head. And finally, the voice was so insistent. I blurted out. I go, okay, I know this is going to sound crazy, but did something happen to you when you were like 5 and that you have this fear of? And I started to sort of say what was being told to me in my head. And the person stopped talking and their jaw dropped and the tears started. And they just fell apart and they started confirming everything that I said is true and telling me what happened. And it was like by the end of that conversation, they were like a new person. They were like restored. And once that voice, I let that voice in, it started happening more and more and more.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, people would start to feel in greater alignment after these sessions. This is before there was a life coach. They didn't exist. Neither did small business consultants. So I now had this superpower that I wasn't telling people how I knew this stuff and how I could start tracking energy and doing all this stuff. I wasn't telling anybody what I was doing. And until one day, now I'm like 10 years into doing this. I've gotten speaking all over the world. I've published my book. I'm writing for newspapers. And I'm thinking life is great. I have this superpower. But I never shared what that I knew how to do these things, right?
Yeah.
And one day that voice comes back and it gives me the command. This is a different command.
Okay.
And I wake up one morning and I hear this voice straight in my head. I know this voice and it says, go to your computer and turn it on. So I go to my computer, I rush to my computer, I turn it on and my fingers start to move on their own. And I'm reading the screen and getting sicker and sicker to my stomach because my hands are moving and I started to type this document. And I'm like looking at the screen and I'm like just panic. And I typed this document that said, you came here to show people how to align with their soul, how to align with the universe, just like you're showing them now how to align their business. This is why you came here. This is your purpose. This is your calling. And then it went on to say, you're going to get a group of people and work with them for 6 months, and they're going to, work with you, and you're going to show them how to do all this. And it took me hours to type this document. And when I was done, I was shaking. I was sick to my stomach. This was over 20 years ago that this happened. Mm-hmm. And I said, nope, absolutely not. I am not here to show people how to align with their soul. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know what you're talking about. You're the wrong person. I'm a marketing consultant. I love helping people build their business, blah, blah, blah. I put my finger over the delete button.
Wow.
But I didn't delete it. I sent it to my sister, Lisa. When I said, I stopped going, what do I do? And she laughed. She says, I don't understand the question. And I said, well, what do I do? And she says, you just typed a document that told you what to do. Go do it. Wow. And I was not happy about that. But today, I've never felt more honored and blessed. I did exactly what it told me to do. And that started my journey. So you ask, how did I end up doing this? It got taken out of my hands. It was downloaded, and it's continued to be downloaded. And now I operate 1,000% differently. I trust every single thing I download. I welcome those downloads. When I work, I'm downloading. My vibration and frequencies are light years different than they were 20 years ago. And my ability is light years. And the more I've stepped into my sensitivity and embraced it and started teaching highly sensitive people over the world, my powers and my gifts got even greater. So it is the gift that keeps on giving. And that's the best thing about living that kind of life where you are literally activating your own power. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Wow. I love that. Great story. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that many individuals will get some goodness from that. I would love for you to, as we're kind of closing up here, I would love for you to tell us a little bit. I mean, obviously we have a really good idea of what you do, but what exactly do you do? And who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
Yeah. Great question. Thank you for asking me. I think what I exactly do isn't, or how I do it isn't so much as important as who you become when you do with the work, right? So when people come to me, again, whether you're retired or predominantly people are highly sensitive that come to me, they're empathic. I work with coaches and life coaches and holistic healers and people that are retired and people that are in the corporate world. So there's not a distinguishing there. I work with men and I work with women. But I will say the common denominator is people are definitely, they're into personal development. They've done a lot of work on themselves, and yet they're finding they're still stuck. There's still a gap between where they want to be, or they still don't know, is it too late? Am I ever going to get this thing that I want in life? So that's how people come to me. They hear me speak on interviews or webinars that I do, or they've read about me, or somehow they've come to me, or they've been referred to me. But what I do is I take them, I actually have a 4-step formula that walks people through how do you get from where you're at now, literally, to accessing these higher vibrations. And I walk you through it so you literally experience it. I use tools that get immediate results. I use activation tools, and an activation tool means that you've activated and moving into a higher vibration than where you were currently started. You went from here to here. Okay, so it's way beyond meditating, way beyond you taking a walk in nature, way beyond you doing yoga, way beyond any of those, because all that does is just keeps you in the same range. It makes you a little higher, keeps you feel a little better. I'm interested in you living the life up here. So that requires something different. And so that's the kind of work, whether it's through my self-study programs or a year-long program, or whatever the format is. I'm a very practical person, being that I'm still left brain type of person. I want something that's immediate, that's practical, that works, and gets you the results you're looking for.
I'm the same way. That's great. Well, awesome. For those that are listening live, for those that are listening on the replay that want to learn more, follow you, where can people find you on social media? Where do you predominantly hang out? And what about a website?
Yeah, I dabble in social media, but literally LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you can contact me. A lot of people contact me on LinkedIn more than anything. And all three of those, my website is debbielynngrace.com. And yeah.
Awesome. To those of you listening live or on the replay, make sure you connect with Debbie Lynn. All the goodness that she shared here was fabulous. I took a whole page of notes. She predominantly hangs out on LinkedIn and then Facebook and Insta. And her website is debbielynngrace.com. It is a clickable link in the description below, wherever you are watching us at. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
I think I would say that, you always say if there was one thing that if this was your last breath, that you were going to, that you got to say what you needed to say on earth. I guess the thing that I would share is your power. You were born with your power. Before you discovered all the stuff that happened to you, all the stories happened to you, all the history happened to you, you were born with already everything you need inside to lead the exact life that you've always envisioned for yourself. You were born with it. And I leave knowing that as long as you know the path and how to access it, how to activate it, everything is waiting for you right now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, for hanging out. Debbie Lynn, thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdom, for inspiring us all. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation. It is also in a clickable link below, where we continue to have uplifting conversations just like this one to help you out every step of the way. Until